Yeah, so yeah, I'm very happy being on the panel, and also I'm very happy that we have this order, because I'm in the lucky position that I am doing research, and that means I can look from a customer perspective and from a service provider perspective, which is quite cool. You might know the sentence that data is the new oil, and I titled my talk, "When Data is the New Oil, Security is the Blowout Preventer." I come to that again at the end of the talk. So yeah, as Antoine already said, so I'm at IMT at Montpellier, and there I'm heading the Cyber CNI chair. So we are doing security research for critical infrastructures. I put you some critical infrastructures like power plant, Industry 4.0 production sites, future roads with connected vehicles. And for me, data sovereignty especially means that I, as a data producer, want to know where the data goes, what is happening with the data, and I want to have control on what is happening there. Plus, and this is also with the major research that we are doing, I want that the technology that is protecting the data, so that is taking care that my will is actually implemented in the software where the data is stored and processed, that this is happening in a reliable way. And yeah, I organized a little bit what we do in the research. So the first thing we do, of course, is prevent. So we work on different methodologies for security by design, so that when you tell security goals, they're actually implemented the way you want them and cannot be circumvented. Of course, you cannot protect against everything, and therefore a second important axe is detecting. So we are detecting that some security policies are violated, things are happening. So here I think, for instance, about you are in a production site and someone is physically destroying your hardware. And then the third axe is mitigating. So if we detect that something is happening, we want to have the systems operatable in the desired actions as soon as possible. Methods that we apply are the typical candidates. So we use blockchain for distributed trust, we use machine learning for big data analysis, and we use digital twins for representing production processes and other things in software. So why do I tell you all this? Because behind all this is this, and this stands for data. So everything we do is on data. Well, most of the things rely on data, produce data. And what is very important for us as well, for the things we're doing, is sharing of this data. And I, in my talk, want to give you two research perspectives, two things that we are looking at as examples where this sharing comes in handy, and what I see as risks that we have there, why we have to have this data sovereignty that all this is about. Okay, so the two use cases are self-driving cars and Industry 4.0. Let's start with the first use case, with the self-driving cars. So first of all, what is a self-driving car? Well, we see here a self-driving car, and what is especially interesting is on the right side, we see some of the input that this car gets. And we see in the middle, there's also some input through the map. And this video motivates to me that with the self-driving cars, or also with the smartphones, we have very powerful data creators, and they are going around in the world and they're collecting information about the world. And this is good, and also it can be a risk. And so let's have another look. So here we see data processing. So we see that the information here is getting classified. So it looks at entities for enabling its operation. It understands what is happening in the environment. So there's continuous data analytics ongoing in this device. And it's not only facing to the outside, it can as well be facing to the inside. So this is an example where a system is looking that this driver is not getting fatigue, so that he's not getting tired. And if he gets tired, then he gets the warning sign. And at the same time, his employer gets some information about that. And I said already, it is good for things like the road planning, traffic jam prediction, and so on. An interesting thing in this use case, why I also like it and why I wanted to present it, is we have on the left side the car. So the car has the cameras, it has all the data. It can do some things on its own. So then the data is fully with us. We have full control of the data. But for some things like the interaction with other cars, for getting to know about traffic jams and so on, it sends data to the cloud. And not to the cloud, but to a cloud by a provider who's then getting the data. And the critical thing is now that with existing solutions, we give the data out of our hand. So it's in the trust area of someone else. And that means, so this is what I depict on the right side at the bottom, this someone else who has now the data that we generated and that are especially in our private environment, this someone can give the data to whomever he wants. Okay, and this can be critical because you just don't have control. So one thing you can think about is that this car is driving around and looking for people. So someone is searching you, someone is paying the cloud data storage provider to give him the data, or is offering this as a service. And then by any self-driving car that is going around, if they have access to the data, they can say, okay, Antoine is currently in Paris, for instance, in this road. So this is an interesting information for some people, but maybe Antoine doesn't want to have that, or I don't want to have that. And therefore, the three axes I was showing, like preventing it, detecting it, and mitigating from it, are important here. So the two extremes, to summarize this, are we have local processing in the car, or we have remote processing in the cloud. The security of my data, so is currently often in this relation here, so that on the left side I have full control of it, on the right side I have less and less control. This is especially what I mean with security here. Of course, with tools and the things that are getting developed also in this initiative, we can go more to the right side, and I'm also really happy about what the previous speakers were saying about their solutions and their actions, because they go exactly into the right direction that I also like a lot. At the same time, so why do I want to go to the right? Because of course, versatility is increasing, so the cool use cases happen through collaboration. Therefore, I want to have collaboration. Classic example is the traffic jam prediction or the routing through streets. So a good example is when Apple Maps came up, they had not so good data. And so you see that everything relies on the data for doing these good routing algorithms here, traffic jam predictions and so on. On the left side, as said in the example, so there might be some secrets. You might be talking to someone in the car. You might be driving by someone that is not even interesting to you, but this someone does not expect to be surveyed. And therefore, we do not want to have mass surveillance in this example, but we want to benefit from the collaboration. And in this setting, there are lots of interesting research challenges. I just wanted to put you one, which is trust into data. So I don't know if you saw this example. So this is a German artist. And so he was taking a car here that you see in the top left, full of smartphones that were all connected to Apple Maps, or to Google Maps in this case. And on the right, you see the map of the bridge he's walking over. And as there were so many phones that were then slowly going over the bridge, the algorithm was assuming that it's a traffic jam, even though on the road there was nothing. And I encountered similar issues in Australia where there was not so much traffic. And therefore you see that how can I trust the data is definitely a good and open research issue. Okay, that brings me to the second topic, to Industry 4.0. So Industry 4.0, so why does data matter? So probably this is clear to you. So what is Industry 4.0? Well, we bring in lots of devices, we bring in computers, we bring in the cloud, and we exchange data between all these entities. And this is good because then we have cool new use cases. We can create production on demand and other things. So you know lots of players that are using this, like when we stay with the car example, Tesla is a lot of using this as setting. So when we go now back behind this nice picture here, so we have such a setting. So we have industrial controllers here that are doing something with these robot arms. And the interesting thing is, especially when you bring in legacy systems, these were not necessarily designed to have interaction now over the internet or with the other entities that you have in here. And one thing that we did in the research is we looked at, okay, how do these softwares on the controllers, how do they behave to detect when then some malicious update was coming in or some malfunctionality was happening, and inform then someone about that to fix it. So what we did is we installed some observation components that collected data on the interactions. We connected those to get more confidence on the data that it observed. So if you have multiple times the same configuration on the same robot arms, you can gain more data and get better models. And now where it becomes even more interesting is when you introduce a component that shares this with other sites. And so this is also what we introduced. And here then it becomes interesting because obviously you do not want to share your company insights, but you want to help the others because you also want to get the help of the others. And this requires especially such responsible sharing of data, a possibility to have trust in the data sharing infrastructure that we have then available. In a nutshell, what we do there is we have services, we observe what they do, and from that we model how the service should behave, what we expect, and when it's behaving differently, we can just block it. So this is then an approach that helps you to secure such Industry 4.0 settings. And on the left side, you see an example where we have data exchanges, different colors are different data exchanges. And with data mining and data processing with machine learning, you can do lots of things here. So again, we can prevent, detect, and mitigate. So in this setting, we have the two extremes, like the local processing in the faculty and the remote processing in the cloud. And it's again similar. So what is local processing? Local processing is on the controller. So I didn't put you an industrial controller, but just a controller to symbolize it. So this is a PLC, normally a programmable logic controller that is in the device there. And on the other side, you have the things that are happening through the connectivity, through the data in the cloud. Just put you a magic wand there. So it's a magic thing that's happening because you can run much cooler programs than you could before. Situation similar again. So having the systems more isolated provides less attack potential because then you just have the system here and it's not connected to the internet with the attackers from there, for instance. You have many more possibilities once you go more to the right. Therefore, you want to go to the right, but you have to do it in a responsible way. So no unnecessary exposure and benefit from the collaboration. And that brings me to the end. So the title was When Data is the New Oil, Security is the Blowout Preventer. So the blowout preventer, you might remember, is from the oil rigs, and it's preventing that the oil is spreading wherever it should not spread. So it's exactly this device here. And to me, data is the oil. So we have something that is very valuable and that should spread to the right positions. And therefore we need the data sharing, but it has to be secure. It has to be responsible, transparent, and secured. And therefore we need such a blowout preventer. And this is exactly what needs more research and what is happening when we have secure data exchange spaces.